Hey everyone, my name is Nate and welcome to my first YouTube video. Today I'm going to be talking about my experience with the Cayin N8ii. And this is a new flagship DAP that came out. Cayin is a pretty notable brand in the audiophile space. They're well known for making tube amps and portable players and the dongle RU6, which is really popular right now. But most notably, what they can do better than other companies is they have implemented the Korg new tube technology into DAPs. Now, what does that do? When I was first researching this device, I had the notion that the sound off of these is going to sound like a warm N8, like the former predecessor of this piece that you see. But after hearing this, it is quite different. It was not that warm compared to what I thought it would be, but still nonetheless, this is an absolute amazing sounding DAP. In terms of the color temperature of this piece, comparing the M17 and as a measuring stick, I would put this slightly left of the M17, right being analytical, clinical, and a little bit bright. So it emerges right here and it's just a little bit warmer to give you that fuller mid-range, the better timbre, and the holographic soundstage that is hard to replicate unless you're running it off of a tube. So going back to the tubes, this is not the conventional type of warm tube sound off of what you would get something like a Macintosh. This is more like that solid state feel with the holographic imaging added to it. Back on to the temperature, if the N8ii is a very neutral sounding DAP, the M8 is to the left of that when it comes to how warm it is, just to give you a reference of the coloring of it. But before I dive into more sound impressions, I want to go over a couple things I like about this DAP. First of all, I like that it has a 4.4 balanced out. I try to run all my IEMs off of the 4.4 because I have found that it does make a difference when it comes to certain IEMs like the Aureolus Traley. Having that extra juice gives it a bigger sound stage and it gives it the bass quantity gets increased. The player itself is pretty zippy. It's what you would expect from Android 9. This piece is running on Android 9, so it's not the newest upgraded versions, but it's still very pleasant to use and it's fast enough that I don't even ever think about it. The thing that is noticeable coming from a phone that's for example, like the S20, is the resolution decrease. So 720p resolution. For my taste, it's okay because I just mainly use it to look at album art sometimes, and sometimes off of YouTube when I'm streaming it. But for the most part, I just need it to look decent enough where it's not too distracting. So no problems on that front. Aesthetically, this DAP is beautiful. I have a thing for well-finished pieces with the gold accent, and the defining aesthetic of this DAP is the gold rotor. I'm trying to focus here. Yeah, you can see it now. And it looks even better in person. The only flaw that I would say for some of you guys would be that the attenuation is very sensitive and it took some time for me to get used to. Now, after trying it for a while, the M17 feels a little too stiff, so that's something to consider. The back is nice and well finished. I like that script logo at the back with the coloring. It's a shame that I have to cover this up with the case cover. One note about the case cover that I have found is, I'm not sure if it's just my case, but because the top is not covered, if you hold it by the case, it can actually fall out. So for current owners and also for future owners, I would advise do not hold the case or the DAP by the case. This is a $3,500 DAP. You do not want to smash it on the ground. That would be very unfortunate. But back to the sound, I was a little bit apprehensive when looking into this device at first because of first the price of it, and two, that it's using a Delta Sigma DAC. There's nothing wrong about the Delta Sigma DAC. As a matter of fact, I love the sound that I get off of the M17. However, when spending money like this, what I was initially going for was a top-of-the-line analog sound, something that you would get off the P6 Pro. The deal breaker for me with the P6 Pro when I looked into it was it didn't have a fluid enough UI, and also I mainly like to stream music, so that really limited the options that I wanted to go for. So I would like to try the P6 Pro in the future and compare it to this device. But so far from all the DAPs that I've tried this year, this is the best sound I've ever heard when it comes to portable. And what I would describe the sound is extremely transparent. It's a very honest DAP. It doesn't lie. It doesn't give you any more. It doesn't give you any less than what your transducer is capable of. On the M17, I found that it had about a 10% wider soundstage, but the bass itself, it wasn't as tight. The Tri-Lee is known for having a very good timbre and an extremely wide soundstage for an IEM, and the N8ii really brings that up to the next level. I was listening to one of my favorite tracks, Armin van Buuren's Mirage, and that is one of my favorite tracks because there's so many different layers that compound on each other, and it feels like you're ascending to the sky listening to it. When I heard this off the N8ii, I was hearing detail that I have never heard before, and I've heard that song hundreds of times for years. And because the Tri-Lee has a really wide sound stage, and the N8ii reveals how wide that is, the imaging was very precise and was able to float around in that space and bring that song to another level that I've never heard before. So just a brief comparison again with the M17. If I were to characterize and prescribe personalities to these two DAPs, I would describe the FIO M17 in car terms more like a Model X. It's extremely accurate, fast, and powerful. The N8 is more like a Bentley. It's refined, it's sophisticated, it's musical, it's revving a naturally aspirated V8 engine. That's how I would describe it, and you really can't go wrong with either one of these. For one, if I were to say which one with the best value, I would definitely say the best value, if you had to choose between these, would be the M17. Low-key, one of my favorite things about the M17 is the fact that you don't have to ever worry about it charging. I believe it has a longer battery life as well, and that could be because of the tube mode. On solid state, they might trade blows in terms of battery life. All in all, if I had to pick one now that I've demoed both, obviously I'd go for the N8ii because I love that analog sound. There's a common denominator between most of my music in different categories. I listen to pretty much any genre, mostly classical, electronic, some rock, metal, and hip-hop. However, this has the detail and clarity of the M17, but it adds a musical component, an analog sound to it that I've not heard from before on a Delta Sigma DAC. So I'm quite impressed with the ROM chip implementation of this, and I'm looking forward to what the DX320 is capable of. Another song example is The Prayer by Andrea, Bocelli, and Celine Dion. Another one of my childhood favorites. My mother would play that for me as she's driving me to school when I was younger, and when I heard that song with the Tri-Lee, my jaws just dropped because all my worries, all of the current events that were flashing through my head at the time were evaporated, and I was left in the recording studio with Celine Dion, and I've never heard her sound so good. It captured all the little nuances that I haven't heard. The in-between, the breaths, the echoes in the recording room. It's almost as if it was a different room that they were recording in. So from my experience so far after a week of using this, I found that fast music, punchy music, modern music like EDM, hip-hop, R&B become even faster, and it almost at times feels like it's 20% faster than what I'm used to. Is still the same speed, but that's just how much detail you're getting from it. On the opposite side of the spectrum, vocal music, folk music, classical, slower songs, I found gained a new level of character and a richness to the sounds. So to my ears, it exaggerates both ends of the spectrum. Now let's talk about a few cons here. I've talked about one of it already, which is the case design. Another thing to consider is that the inputs are at the opposite ends of the spectrum compared to the volume wheel. So if you have this in your pocket, the IEM will be poking out like this, and you'll have to reach to the bottom of your pocket, in your jean pocket, to adjust the volume wheel. I have not found it to be a problem, even though it was a concern initially, because the DAP is small enough where you could kind of squeeze your hand in there as you're walking around. Another thing to consider is that this DAP does get hotter than the M17. It's not so much of a problem for me because I do live in a relatively cooler climate, but if you live in somewhere really hot, that might be a deal breaker for you. And another con is obviously the price. Gentlemen, this is a $3,500 DAP. For $3,500, you can buy a maxed out MacBook Pro. You can even buy a used car. It's all gonna depend on your budget and your use case, but if you're the type of person that wants the absolute best, highest quality audio, specifically you want a more analog sound and you want the flexibility to switch between timbres of tube mode, solid state, this DAP is one you should consider. I always recommend you demoing this product first before you decide to purchase it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and subscribe to the channel because I have a few IEMs coming into the collection soon that I want to talk about. Take care, everyone.